What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Rookie Recap content. I'm really excited for this. This is my third straight year of doing rookie videos over the summer, where I'm going to deep dive into a bunch or most of the relevant rookie performances. And I'm really excited for this first one on Sheppard. We technically did a Ron Holland video, but I'm not giving that the rookie recap title because we only talked about one side of the ball. We're talking about both sides of the ball with Sheppard. And if you're excited for this one, make sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and comment what you thought of Sheppard's rookie season. But his superpower are his hands on defense. His anticipation and reaction time and reflexes are absolutely incredible. He made so many crazy plays. 6'1", 6'2" Sheppard fronting Kevin Durant. He gets his hand on the ball and the Rockets end up going the other way for a turnover. Houston's defense was obviously phenomenal, and Reed didn't play a ton this year, which is why I wanted to do this one first, because I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of Reed this year. But when he was out there, he was really awesome for a rookie guard. And his reaction time, like I said, the anticipation is wild. They're going to peel switch here, which just means initially it's a drop, but Reed's going to take Thomas Bryant. Adams is going to take Nembhard, but then Reed wants to switch back here. Adams doesn't track back, leaving the opening, but Reed has the crazy reaction time and anticipation to put that ball up in the air and just pop it up for one of his teammates to go get it and create a turnover. The Rockets ran a lot of zone down the line, and Reed's ability to disrupt passes and to dig down makes him an excellent top zone defender. He can just kind of sink down on Chet Holmgren, poke the ball away, and then he goes the other way with it. So Reed allows the Rockets to play this aggressive style of defense, and he fits in with it with their big roster especially. Look at him just quickly intercepting this pass. I love his late hand usage. As Austin Reeves, the ball is out of Reeves' hands, and Reed's hand is still by his side. Let's look at when Reed moves his hands up. About here, the ball is almost past him, but he still flicks that ball away from LeBron. Cam Whitmore gets the ball, Wizards legend, by the way, goes the other way and gets the steal. Reed is an awesome transition defender, just like crazy instincts, tracking back to get that steal and again force another turnover for the Rockets. And he loved poking the ball away from behind when players were loose with their handle. Jared McCain gets a bit of a step on Reed, but simply just knocks the ball towards Steven Adams. Reed runs out. I think he actually misses this layup. Reed. He's going to do it again here to Rudy Gobert. And Sheppard is a pest in the best way possible. It is very hard to pass and dribble around him, where he's hounding Mike Conley right here, denying the pass out. Conley gets him back door, but that does not mean Sheppard's out of the play right here. He's simply going to pluck the ball behind from a weak ball handler in Rudy Gobert. Rockets go the other way. I don't know why this is black for a second. Okay, there we go. Sheppard's hands are a big aid for him at the point of attack as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tries to cross him over, but Reed simply sticks his left hand in the dribbling window, picks the ball, and they're going the other way. I think he's going to end up missing this one as well. He's definitely best as an off-ball defender, using his incredible reflexes and instincts to create turnovers, but this is his best weapon on the ball, where Reed is so good at these, a lot of these are listed as blocks, but he really did go to the Fred VanVleet school. He clearly did a semester or two. This is a Fred VanVleet type play. It's listed as a block, but he strips the ball on the way up, knocks it off of Wiggins' knee. It goes the other way. Reed Sheppard ends up getting credited with the block, and the Rockets, of course, get the ball right there. It's harder than you'd think for bigger players to just drive straight through Reed because of how strong and active his hands are. Trendon Watford probably has a half-foot plus height advantage and a ton of size and strength, but Reed is able to rip the ball away from him, even though the Nets, I think that's Daron Sharp, ends up scoring. But Reed's ability to pluck balls away with his hands is truly special to me, and I think compensates for a lot of his size. And it's part of the reason that I feel a little better about his defensive projection than I did coming out. I feel a little better about his defense and a little worse about his offense, which is interesting, and we'll get into that at some point. Another strip on Nikhil right there. And you just look at his defensive numbers. 4th in the league in deflections per 100, which is awesome. Only behind Sarr, Dyson, and Caruso. Keon Ellis, Herb Jones, Gary Payton. Great block numbers, and if we go to only guards right here, shout out Data Baller for this awesome data. We sort by blocks. we can see that only 9 guards blocked more shots per 100 possessions, and this is a lot of the best defenders in the league. Amen, Jalen Suggs, Keon Ellis, Derek White, Banton's good, Shea's good, Craig Porter, my guy, Cole Anthony, interesting in one right there. So his turnover generation numbers were absolutely crazy, but the double-edged sword of playing that way is that you're going to get beat sometimes. Reed very rarely got into a stance and slid on the ball. Part of this is because he's not super quick or agile on the ball, but he loves to turn and chase and try to swipe the ball out, but he doesn't get a chance here against TJ McConnell, who easily beats into the basket. I'd say overall his on-ball defense was probably poor. It was a mixed bag for sure, and we saw a lot of those good plays like we saw, but there were just too many instances where defenders easily walked Reed back into the basket, and you can see his instincts are good. He's usually in the right spot. He does a good job here communicating with the men and getting back to Aaron Wiggins on this ghost screen where, maybe there is an opening for Wiggins to shoot, maybe you're kicked to the corner, but Reed does well. He stays in front. He goes for the swipe down with his right hand, and once he misses that, he's off balance, and it's just too easy for Wiggins to score. So as Reed gets older, more athletic, and more experienced, he's going to have to find a good balance between using his hands to play disruption and then using his body to stay in front of people. But I do have some worries about Reed's, like I said, his lateral quickness and ability to slide his feet and cut off defenders. He really does seem uncomfortable, taking 1-2 explosive lateral steps to cut off a defender. And I think that combined with his size, 6'2", sub 6'4" arms, there really aren't a ton of examples of those guys being great defenders unless they get really strong, which I think that's going to be one of the paths for Reed. But again, we just see a clean blow by in space where Reed doesn't have the lateral ability to just mirror. He's off balance here trying to turn and chase, and at that point quickly already has him beat. Reed can't get the block from behind, and he's unable to make that play. So point of attack defense is probably my main concern with Sheppard that I'm going to be watching for into next year, though I do feel positively about him on defense overall, even though I think a lot of this stuff, while it definitely is a lot of physical issues, I think there's technique and just polished stuff. We see once again Reed going for this strip on Halliburton, but once he misses, he's cooked. There's very little recovering from that. So he has these special hands, and I don't want to stop him from going for those, but he's got to learn how to rein them in. And Sheppard's other big issue to me are screens and handoffs, where his lack of agility, size, strength, and length makes it difficult for him at times to get around these handoffs, and he gets flattened and stuck on a lot of these dribble handoffs and screens. And a lot of times Houston defense has great help, and they can compensate for this, but a lot of these plays might seem like kind of nitpicks, especially the ones we're going to get to, but when we're talking about the highest level of defensive upside, they matters. But Reed does have pretty quick feet at times when he can turn and chase. He cuts off Kawhi Leonard here, forces a tough pass to the corner. Derek Jones doesn't make, and then he gets the rebound. And Reed has a lot of little tricks in his bag as well. This might look like a regular just kind of jail contest on Shea, but look at where Reed places his right hand. He can't get to the ball, so he's simply going to block Shea's eyes to try to force him to miss, and it ends up working. So he has a lot of these little veteran tricks and things, and he does get backdoored some because of his aggressive kind of steal hunting play style. Again, these aren't issues that I'm particularly concerned about, especially because I think his feel and off-ball instinct is generally positive. And there are more examples of Reed doing plays like this, right? Or initially he's guarding Alvarado, he covers this cut and denies an advantage. I think there's more examples like that of his tape than just horrible miscommunications, but the margin for error with a player of Sheppard's size is really, really small, where he'll make some great rotations, but he just is a hair late because he lacks the size and length, where for most players, this is an awesome rotation, and this isn't a negative on Reed's tape at all. He immediately reacts before Naz Reid even gets into the paint, before Clark is barely starting his cut. He's going to cut this off. He's so close to getting this block from behind, but just lacks a little bit of length. And when we're talking about Sheppard's potential as an all-NBA defender, I don't think it's necessarily in the cards. He could have seasons of all defense impact. I think that's certainly possible, but at some point I worry that the lack of size is going to inhibit him as well, and especially when he plays such a gamble-heavy play style. Again, even when Reed is in good position and there to make plays, if he's not getting the steal or the block on the way up, there's not really much you can do compared to some of the best defensive guards in the league. Let's talk about his offense now, though, which I think is kind of opposite of the defense. I maybe worry about a little more than I did as a prospect, but one thing I don't worry about is the three-point shooting. I think he was like 33, 34% on high volume. One of my qualms with Reed as a prospect was I didn't believe in him as like a special shooter, but I did believe in him as a very good one. And the shot versatility stands out like a sore thumb on his tape in a good way. He's got a great instinct for relocating to open spots. We saw him hop from deep. He relocates here to the left wing. He's a great movement shooter as well. Not necessarily going to like run around screens and sprint like Duncan Robinson, but you see plays like this where he already has that awesome relocation instinct. Instead of taking a bad pull-up, he kicks it to Şengün, gets back to the top of the key, and gets himself a wide open shot. So I'm a big fan of his off-ball movement. This was something that Reed was always great at, and I didn't really have any worries projecting to the next level. And though the efficiency wasn't exactly what you want on threes, I think for Reed to hit his ceiling as an offensive player, he needs to be a high efficiency, high volume three-point shooter, but he can really do that. He's got some off the dribble stuff as well. When defenses went under pick and rolls, he was not even under in this case. Jalen Williams fights over and is just a little behind. Reed has no qualms firing over a contest and from the deep wing right there. So I have a lot of faith in him as a shooter as a three-point shooter long term. And again, we see an example right here of J-Dub going under, and this is from near the logo, but Reed's going to pull because he has that kind of range. His range is definitely one of his best shooting weapons, which makes it harder to guard him because you have to commit more space to him. And Reed is a good movement shooter, like I said. He'll come off of flare screens, moving to both his left and his right. He's not, like we said, Duncan Robinson, Buddy Hield, Steph Curry, but he can come off of a little away screen, move forward. The forward momentum shooting is great. There's nobody really near Reed, and he's just going to pull into a wide open shot. So while I never believed that Reed was like a special shooting prospect, I do think he's a very good one, and he's going to be someone who punishes defensive mistakes really heavily. And the Rockets need that. They don't have players like that on the roster. I mean, they obviously just traded for Kevin Durant, so now they definitely have one of those guys. But last season, that was a huge problem that I think Reed has the skill set. Another beautiful pull-up three right there. But the other really impressive thing to me with Reed was his mid-range pull-up flashes. Now, he was a super inefficient mid-range pull-up shooter. He shot like 30, 20% from like long and short mid-range, and we'll get into some of those issues, but I love when the Rockets would use zoom action, get him off of dribble handoffs. He's really good like dribbling to his right and flowing into a kind of hanging in the air pull-up. He gets good elevation, and his touch on these shots is obviously really impressive, and because Reed isn't the best creator, these handoffs and movement opportunities give him a chance to get set into shots and to show off his instincts and his handle. I love this play as well where he snakes to the right. But again, notice the pre-screen movement right here. We have another simple little screening action right here, getting the handoff against the poor defender in Simons, but because Klingon is taking away this left side drive, he's just going to snake it back to the open right elbow, dribble into a little shot, and even though Banton was kind of coming over from the corner to contest, he was still able to get the shot up. This OKC game was maybe like one of the most impressive games from any rookie. I think he had like 20-something, a bunch of assists, good defensive plays, and he's really great at the screen usage. He uses the rescreen, and though he's not great at like separating against a guy like Cason Wallace, an awesome on-ball defender, if he can use the ball screen here, he slows down. He's not a super dynamic or shifty player with the ball, but he is really smart and commands pace really well, which is going to be a way for him to create advantages on the ball. Again, we see him using the rescreens. He gets a little advantages, stops and pops from the long mid-range where, once again, like we said, wasn't efficient at all in these spots, but you can clearly see the ability and the flashes. And I think the stop and pop ones are kind of some of his most impressive creation flashes. He's going to have to become really good at this to be an on-ball guy in the league, where he hop steps right here, fades back in the middle of the floor, and then hits it in the paint. Like, he's not really ever getting to the rim. His rim frequency was extremely low. and he didn't draw a ton of fouls. So Sheppard's going to have to live in this short mid-range. And I do think he has the tools and the touch and the ability with the ball screen. Again, we see him using the rescreen, beautiful little one-legged fadeaway to get to his spot. There were plenty of shot-making flashes that are worth betting on. But like we said, overall, the efficiency was poor, and longer, bigger, stronger defenders gave him a lot of trouble separating without a screen when he was going downhill. We see Deuce McBride blocking his shot right there. Reed can't get any separation. Again, we're going to see Sheppard this time come off of another little handoff, but there isn't a screen here to help him free from Alexander Walker, who's able to contest him into a really tough fadeaway. I do think Reed got a little better at picking his spots and using his body to get downhill, but you can just see in these one-on-one situations where Reed is asked to be a primary creator to break down the defense, even against a guy like Quickly, who's like a fine defender, just doesn't have the creativity, the east-west shake, or the explosiveness to consistently create those positive looks for himself. And this was always one of my big concerns with Reed, like long-term, was his ability to create shots on his own. And he's so reliant on these looping decelerations and changes of speed. And look at the sky hook. We'll get to one of those later. And while his craft and touch and footwork are all really impressive, it's just a tough way to live for, once again, a smaller guard who isn't the most explosive or potent driver. It's a tough sell for those guys to end up as primary creators. And you can see when switches happen and there's a bigger player guarding Reed, oftentimes he'll struggle to create separation. Most of his good plays come against smaller guards when he's attacking like that, but there are some flashes, and when he was able to actually get to the basket, he made some shots, and oh my goodness, that that sky hook is absolutely beautiful over Pascal Siakam. It's a very difficult shot, but Reed showed some good stuff as like an off-ball driver, and there were some flashes. Look at him beating Rui on the switch. I love when he holds his handle deep in the drive. He doesn't have that like explosive long strides where he can pick the ball up right here and just dart to the rim, but he can take another dribble, pick the ball up right by the restricted area, great seal right there, and then he reverses it in on the right side of the basket. So it's not necessarily like primary advantage creation. Again, we see Reed coming off of a dribble handoff. He's got Alex Caruso on his back, but he's able to like throw the ball out right here into space to go get it, hangs and scoops it in right there with Isaiah Hartenstein lurking. He definitely isn't afraid to get to the basket and finish in the trees, which I do appreciate, even though I think there are limitations when it comes to physical ability and athleticism. I always appreciate his willingness to, again, like we said, take an extra dribble where Sheppard doesn't have the most dynamic handle, but a lot of players his age are not taking this extra dribble to, once again, pick it up right outside the restricted area, hop step through traffic, finish with the inside hand, his weak left hand. So there are really impressive flashes to bank on. And if you really believe that Reed can like weaponize his touch and craft and get stronger and become a foul drawer, like maybe there are some potential ways that he can become a more on-ball creator player with some more potent driving. But I do worry about the ceiling for that. And then the other place that his size worries me is his playmaking, where I thought Reed was all right, but not crazy. And this was, I think people gave me shit for this last year when I talked about this on my channel, but these were issues at college where Reed's inability to pass on the move, to pass with a live dribble, and to make these higher level reads was one of my concerns. We have Jock Landale wide open right here in the middle, and there's also a good kick out to the wing, but Reed doesn't have the height or the ball skills to get those passes into tight windows, and those led to turnovers like that. Again, we see Reed running the pick and roll. Just a lot of the times he defaults to this just high lob up pass, trying to get the ball, but he's not reading Randall here, helping over from the corner, and he's not big enough or skilled enough to access a skip pass to Amen Thompson, even though obviously Amen's not a good shooter and like the offense would have to reset. But anyway, it's better than a turnover, right? Getting that skip pass to the weak corner. Again, we see Sheppard in this pick and roll situation, lobbing the ball over to Landale. There are good moments right here where, again, Reed can back up, and this time there isn't a backline help defender sinking into the gap, and that means Reed can lead the ball over to Jock Landale, who ends up finishing strong. So his passing over top to big men in pick and roll definitely has its positives, but again, we see plays like this where Reed is simply going to need to get better at reading second level help. Like Chris Dunn comes in to dig, which means he assumes, oh, Chris Dunn was guarding Jalen Green. Green must be open, but nope, Kawhi is going to peel away. And yeah, NBA athletes, size, length, just different. So I do think Reed can get better at reading second level help defenders. That's something that a lot of rookies improve on, especially when the flashes of, like we said, skip passing out of the pick and roll, really, really impressive. He is a good skip passer, which I do appreciate already at this stage. There are real flashes of his ability to flip the court on drives, and I like here that he leads Jabari Smith away from Chet Holmgren so he can get a little bit of space to catch and fire on the wing. That ball placement was really impressive, and Reed's best moments as a playmaker to me come when he's moving off the ball as a connector, as an off-ball guy. Great give and go right here, cuts behind Plumlee, immediately notices that this guy's going to step up to Reed, so he, before he's even open really, throws that lob up to Landale, who ends up going up above smaller defenders and ends up catching that ball. And like I said, some of these audacious, like, high-up passes, I do appreciate Reed's willingness to seek out and look for these layup passes, these dunk passes, these alley-oop passes. These were his most impressive plays, and the things that Reed leaned on right there, the passes over the top of defenses, which is interesting considering his size, right? Most players of Reed's size lean more pocket passes or lateral craft and stuff. Just really impressive jump pass over the top of two defenders to Jock Landale. But I do have real questions about what his ceiling on the ball looks like. And though my thoughts on his specific side of the ball and skill have kind of changed a little bit, I feel pretty similar about Reed overall as I did heading into his rookie season. I think he's going to be a damn good player, and I hope the Rockets keep him around. It seems like they want to prioritize him because they're going to benefit so much, and especially on a big team with a lot of athletic defenders and play finishers, and hopefully, Durant can act as that primary offensive guy, or Amen or Şengün really keep developing, because I don't view Reed as like an on-ball creator. Maybe he can develop into a Fred VanVleet mold player where he can really just keep his turnovers down, take a lot of jumpers, and raise the floor of an offense like that. But I view Reed as like a supersized off-ball player. Not supersized, just like a supercharged off-ball player who's making great reads, shooting the ball off of movement, and of course adding tons of value with his disruptive defense. But ultimately, to me, that's more of like a good to great starter on a great team, which is an awesome player. I graded the pick well. I liked the pick, even though I had Reed a little lower on my board than 3. I thought the fit makes sense. I think he has a chance to be really great and kind of reach his ceiling in Houston, even if I'm not so crazy about that ceiling in terms of being like an all-star impact level guy. But let me know what you think about Reed, what you thought about these clips, and I hope you have a great day or night.